So this class is predicated on assuming no knowledge from the people who will listen or read it. I have written it all down. And if you have questions, there will be a question period at the end. Keep in mind, Amp Guard, as I said before, is not a place where traditional battle tactics translate well. And that's for one specific reason. We have magic. And that changes literally everything from the traditional like SCA fighting where they will go to like say Penzic War down in Pennsylvania and for like 2 weeks beat the ever living crap at each other with bamboo poles covered in duct tape. So outside of tournaments and Amp Guard, you will find yourself more often than not working with others during battle games. These teams are more often than not different every time in size, composition, and with different people. Except in company battles, but that's a different thing. This makes it hard to develop familiarity with your side, allowing trust and common strategies to build and develop naturally. In this course, we'll look at combat strategies throughout history and how Amp Guard is unique in its battle gaming. So, first off, let's get something straight. Amp Guard is to military combat as painting a room is to painting portraits. Sure, they do share some base similarities, but in no way does it translate well. Amp Guard style combat is more like football, with varying battle game styles, class abilities, and spells and objectives. Football plays are better suited to Amp Guard than traditional military strategies. So let's explore that, shall we? The objective in football is clear. You take the ball from one side, you put it on the other side, you get points. One side tries to stop it and recover the ball and bring it over to their side. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's heavy object and its variants. So basically, it's easy to promote, it's easy to understand, and what makes it simple also makes it complicated because, as the saying goes, there is more than one way to skin a cat. That's why there are different plays in football. That's why there are different battle games and strategies in Amp Guard. So there are two ways to plan for combat in Amp Guard. First is design a plan based on classes. So that means taking the class into account what's on your team, the classes on the other team, and find their counters and or support compatibilities. So say the other team is really magic heavy, you're going to want to send the bard and the monk out there because their natural immunities and songs will make them a very hard counter to those spell slingers, which is great. The other way to do this is to ignore class and look at the players. So sure, that's 6-point warrior is basically a human meat sledgehammer coming at you. But that player may have tunnel vision. Well, they'll go after one thing and one thing only and forget everything around them, which means a simple bait and switch will work. So while they're going after the one they want to beat the most, you can easily be up behind them and then roll them to death, which is great. Or say the wizard over there is really good at verbal magic. Simply shutting them down with, say, a suppression or even just a simple standard suppression will completely eliminate their game and even freeze them for a minute. As Sun Tzu said, no plan survives its first contact with the enemy. And then, more recently, Iron Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's how the team reacts that will determine the course of the battle. As soon as you shake them from their initial plan or from their standard issue tactics is when you can see if they're going to freeze up or if they're going to adapt. And adaptation is really the most key thing in any plan. If you're stuck as a one-track mind and your plan, you will get destroyed because you're not evolving with the situation. So now there is a middle option between planning against classes and planning against people, and that's using both. So what you can do is, sure, you can plan for class battle. You can plan, you want to send the monk after the bard because without sword and bards can't do diddly against a monk. What if instead of sending the class against each other, you let the bard do his thing because the scout over there knows how that person plays and can easily get around them and inside them. That's where all these two things come together. And that's what makes everything really interesting about Amp Guard is that You can't just go based off strength alone. You have to go off knowledge of people. So the most important thing is when you're forming a plan, you got to really think on like 3 different levels. First one is, how do we complete the objective of the game? Because it doesn't matter how many people you kill. If you don't complete the objective, you're going to lose the game. And sure, wiping everyone on the other team can work, but it's not the best strategy. So number 2, how effectively can you complete the objective? Because the overall plan is great, but if it's not effective or efficient, it's not going to do any good. 3, what's the biggest obstacle on the other team to stop you from completing your goal? So this is where you determine the heavy hitters on the other team and how you can neutralize them. Because if you don't, again, they're going to wreck you. Now, there are some battle games you can play in Amtgard that don't even require you to kill the other team. Things like ring the bell, capture the flag, even resource gathering. You can just use crowd controlling effects to complete the game and no one dies. Which is different when you do like more militia style battle games where you have like kill your killer or regicide, things like that require an overall death count. You need it. There's no way around it. And let's face it, people like death. People in this game like to kill their opponents because it's fun. And it's kind of what the game's designed to do. Now, we come to the age-old question of offense versus defense. So which is better? The answer is simple. Neither is better. You need both. If you're the most offensive team ever, you're going to get slipped behind and you're going to lose. Because while you're sitting there trying to hammer the other team, some fast runner is going to flank you, get the object, and win. So you got to find your simple balance. And while not all battle games or all parts can have enough people you can design, designate 1 or 2 people to be your defense, because of our crowd controlling effects in this game, you could actually have a couple midline people with those effects be almost like lieutenants out there on the battlefield. They're keeping an eye on the flankers and the runners. Because if you can get them off their game, if they start running towards the object and you say cast on them while on the go, they can't complete their mission because they got to stay 20 feet away from you. And if you're hot on their heels, they can't stop to pick up the object or ring the bell or whatnot. So that's the sort of middle ground there for the offense versus defense. If both teams are operating on a good high level of battle gaming, every game's going to be close to a draw. And that's the game that everyone likes. No one likes being steamrolled. Not a single person in here has been on a team where they got steamrolled and he had a great time overall. You're going to get frustrated. No one likes to lose. No one likes to lose embarrassingly well. So, there we go. The next thing up here is, it doesn't always enter in here, but we also have battle formations. So things like shield walls, phalanxes, even V formation or wedge formations. It doesn't come up often, but there are a few games that lend themselves to being really well for formations. Things like Castle Defense, Hold the Points, and those lend themselves really well, specifically because you have one place you have to stop the other side from getting to. So standard formation you have will be things like shield walls. Those are the most basic maneuver that everyone learns, usually within the first couple months of playing. Stand there with your friend or your teammate, protect people behind you, and kill anyone who comes within sword reach. While people behind you will lob spell balls, arrows, throwies, cast spells, or with polearms reach over and stab ahead of you, which is good. Phalanxes are kind of like this, kind of similar with that, but you use the natural terrain around you to stop the enemy from getting around you. So, kind of the same thing, a little bit different. So we're going to look at your basic game here. We're going to go with a castle defense. Simple game design. You got a door they got to get through, an objective inside. You got to stop them, usually like capturing a flag or really just getting inside and a certain count while they're in there. So in this game, in this theoretical game, the walls are impenetrable as usual, but they can be fired over or thrown over, but cannot be cast through. Your death count is 30 seconds, and it's doubled if you take a death. So you get frozen with an ice ball, you die, you take your death, you're at 60 seconds. You might as well just stay there. So we're going to examine this from 2 different sides. Oh, sorry, there's a chat going on here. All right, sorry. from two different sides, from the offense and the defense. So we'll go with easier. We'll go with the defense first. So in this game, your job is to hold the castle for 20 minutes. That's it. That's the game timer. If you're into RP, the RP reason is that your allied army is coming in and will wipe out the force outside the wall in 20 minutes. You just got to hold them off. In a game like this, magic will play a big part. Simple level 1 spells like Shove, Awe, Insult can tear apart a line in seconds. Getting around that, there are really 3 different ways. The first one, of course, is enchantments. Protection enchants are strong, but they can also be countered by scouts, wizards, and druids, and healers. The second one is you can use class abilities or immunities, like with barbarians, monks, paladins, and anti-paladins. Their natural immunities can overcome a lot of what the enemy already has prepared. And then other classes such as scouts and bards are also very good. Scouts can shadow dance a little bit. They also have their level 6 ability, which is a simple blessing. They can cast every life, which is great. And bards can just song switch to avoid any sort of casting on them. None of that, they also have armor, which is, as everyone knows, 1 point of armor is really overpowered when you think about it. And the other way you can go about this is, once again, using spells against the enemy that they'll use against you. So, Shove, Awe, even Insult can really ruin their time. So when you think about that as a whole, defense is easy because you have one objective. That's it. You got to hold that line and keep from getting into the castle, and there's no other way in. It's really geared toward defense, and this is where it becomes an endurance trial. Because if you're on the front line, you're going to get winded. I don't care how good your cardio is, you're going to get winded. Adrenaline will take a lot out of you, especially when it starts to wear off. That's where other maneuvers like the Romans' line refresh that they have. And what they do is, every couple of minutes, they'd have their lines switch out. That's hard to do without having your line collapse. So there's actually a little clip I want to show you guys. It's represented from the HBO series Rome on how they would do this. And it's actually pretty fantastic. So I'm just going to share my screen on that. Just let me know when you're all in and I'll start the clip. So that was the great strength of the legions, was doing that. Now, the guy blowing the whistle was a centurion, so he was in charge of that entire group that was running. Of course, centurion means 100 men, so they probably had 4 lines of 25 people. And as you can see, in that case was a couple of seconds, but usually like every minute, blow that whistle, and they'd immediately come down the sides and move up, which is a great way to keep your troops fresh. And if you can do that, so say with a castle defense, you only need 4 people. You could have a couple lines and switch them out periodically. You will stay fresher than your attackers. A great way of conserving your strength. Because if you're winded and you're gassed, your shots are going to be slower, your spells are going to fizzle because you're going to get winded halfway through the sentence, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. Now that utilizes two tactics in that clip. One was, of course, the refresh. The other one was the shield wall. We use that a lot in Amtgard, especially in militia-style games such as ditch lines or just the militia and even company battles. The Romans didn't really use a lot of pole arms or great weapons. They would have a javelin called a pilum. It was designed to hit a shield and bend. Not break, bend, causing the user to either take time to pull that out or it would drag them down. We don't really have something like that in Amtgard, but we do use javelins, which does cause people to be more conscious of things flying at them. Javelins, boulders, throwaways, arrows. If they're worried about getting hit from a bit higher on their body, they're going to lift their shield up or, crouch down a bit more, which does give anyone an advantage slightly if you know how to exploit it. As you saw, they did a lot of legs. So cut the legs out from the enemy, and the person behind them would either stab down, or they themselves would keep their shield up and stab down to kill the enemy. Great tactic. We've all seen it done. We've all done it. We do use a leg 'em and leave 'em tactic a lot in Amtgard, but when you're doing something like castle defense or hold the point, it doesn't really work unless you're using wounding or arrows. Throwaways, if you're a really good shot or get lucky, you can do it from a greater distance, but usually the effective range of a throwaway is about 15 to 25 feet. So next up, we'll be doing another clip. This is going to be from the one from Movie Gladiator. We're going to see a shield wall with a turtle and how teamwork is more effective than trying to be on your own. So that's going to come live soon. Just go ahead and pop in that.
Anyone here been in the army?
Yes. I served with you at Vindavana.
You can help me. Whatever comes out of these gates, we've got a better chance of survival if we work together. Do you understand? We stay together, we survive.
Pleased to bring you the Legionnaires of Scipio Africana!
All right. So that was a perfect example of teamwork and communication. So initially, when the fight started, you had all these individuals, some armor, shields, some weapons, and then these chariots come out with those javelin throwers, the archers, and those death wheels. So using the Mongol style, yes, teamwork is absolutely OP. It's the most overpowered ability in any game, period. And I will argue that until I die. You cannot change my mind. The Legionnaires had all of the advantages. They had speed, maneuverability, death from everywhere. And then you had these gladiators. Gladiators traditionally were trained to fight one-on-one. And even when they fought in groups, it was still one-on-one. It was like watching a wrestling match. WWE, WWF, whatever you want to do. They're in a group, but they don't know how to work together. Come along, Maximus. General, fighter, some other people who were in the military that were in the gladiator arena for one reason or another, usually sold themselves into slavery over debt, or were captured in battle and became a slave. Fighting for their freedom, standard issue things in Rome, which is why Rome fell, but we'll get to that at another point. So, as disadvantaged as they were, they still managed to overcome the day with simple unit tactics. Everyone doing their part. So one person who knew how they're going to defeat them took charge, and they followed it. You saw those people on the outside, the ones who were not in the formation, died pretty quickly. I said it in my teamwork primer before, I'll say it again. Lone wolves sound good, but lone wolves die because they have no pack to help them. So if you don't want to work with your team, why are you playing a team sport? Which in essence is what Amtgard is. You could be the best stick jock we have in this game. If you do not work well with the team, you're not going to do well in a battle game. So, that is pretty much like the Roman legions conquered most of their known world. A, because they trained their soldiers well, and B, sheer numbers. They fought on a lot of quote-unquote barbarian tribes. The Gauls you saw on the initial HBO row when we saw their line refresh. They fought the Germans and the French. Really disorganized because they didn't use tactics. They just ran at their opponent and hoped sheer overwhelming numbers and the strength of some of their fighters would win the day. Rome fought as a unit, which is why to this day their army was some of the best military victories we will see in this world. They did it with very minimal equipment. Chainmail mostly. Centurions had to have the musculata or even the breastplate. A short sword, the gladius, tower shield, and every now and then a pillium. Some arrows. Not a lot. That's bare basic military stuff they're carrying around. They moved light, they moved fast, and they were very successful because of teamwork. In Amtgard, that can translate very easily to small units. We don't always have a lot of shields, but we have other ways of keeping them away from us. Like I said before, shove, awe, terror, even insult used properly can keep those enemies at bay for you to move in and do the killing strike. But none of the killing means anything if you don't complete the objective in the battle game. One of the most murder party games I've seen has been Ring the Bell. Simple objective. Get to the other side, hit it with a weapon. It's got to be a melee weapon, because if you do it with a distance weapon, any team Admiral or Pandora's on is going to win, because they can shoot targets at a distance like I've never seen before with an Amtgard arrow. So people often come in the middle, murder, and then one person will break free when the team's outnumbered and go for that bell. Is that the most effective way to win that game? No. Is speed the most effective way to win that game? Yes, it is. Absolutely. What do you do when you don't have speed? It's simple. You develop a plan around what you do have. You're going to need a bit of speed to get to that bell. You're going to need it, but you don't need to be like Usain Bolt and hit, max speed from jump. You can be like a cheetah. Small bursts of speed can win the day. Develop your plan around what you have, not what you wish you had. But more importantly, if your plan's not working, change it. You don't have to be running the team. You don't have to be the coordinator to have an idea. Because let's be honest, none of us are omniscient. We can't see everything. especially if you're trying to run the team from the front line. I've done it. I'm not good at it. I can't run it from the front line because I get my objective and I go. I can't see everything. So if you want to have someone design the initial plan and then like a field commander, someone who is like an archer or a caster who stays around near the back out of it to see everything, do it. Have go words, have retreat words. Almost like football, we can call an audible right then and there and change it up. You will find yourself more successful having a plan that adapts to the situation than to go in with a bad plan. I know Jeet says it's better to have a bad plan than no plan. I disagree with that. Because if you have no plan off the hop but develop one during the game, that's much better than having a really bad plan. People will get stuck in the way of the bad plan and you will lose heart. We've all seen it. We've all probably done it. It's gonna happen. You're convinced it's going to work and you just keep forcing that round peg into that square hole, and by the time you can, it's too far gone. So the last one is, of course, we've seen it before, but it's going to be the shield wall. Now, before I show this clip, I'm well aware of the fact that Vikings traditionally didn't use a shield wall. They walked up in a line, and then it became chaos. But for the sake of this clip, because I like it, it shows the shield wall very well.
Shield wall! Now! Do so! To the overtime keel! Combat with a heart of steel! Cold is the ocean spray! Your death is on its way! With maidens you have had your way! Each must die someday! Go get found!
So, that's the shield wall, used very effectively. Commonly used in militia-style games because, well, with abilities like spells, it doesn't translate well. Militia-style games are the closest we will come in Amtgard to almost the traditional SCA combat. And you saw some really cool things in there. One, they almost did like the Roman turtle, where they had the shields overlap each other so that the arrows couldn't penetrate their back ranks. Always really good. Because how many of us have been pegged by an archer from one you didn't even see, and they're just standing there looking dumbfounded? Admiral, I'm looking at you. I see you there. So they're protecting their ranks, and they're even developed strategies as well that they can open up a little bit, have their archers fire through their own shield line, and get the enemy. They're big people, the ones with the spears. Most of those Englishmen had axes and swords. Some had spears, which is what they were eliminating first. You take away the bigger threat and then go after everyone else. That's a good strategy. Because if you leave the bigger threats around there, it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. There is no way around it. It's just going to happen. So we've looked at a few different things, a couple battle games. I love castle defense, so I will often use that as the biggest strategic example, because it's the one place where you can use the same strategy, attacking and defending, and it'd be absolutely effective. Hold the Point is also like that. It's more of an open field castle defense, but there's no walls to protect you other than the terrain and your own strategies. Yes, Admiral. Look the other way with the bow. That's great. So hold the point or capture location or whatever you want to call it is a great example of how to plan and think fast on your feet. Because instead of having one direction they can come from, you have 360 degrees where they can come from. They don't have to hit you hard in one place. They can hit you from everywhere. That is hard tactically. No one wants to hold a single point where they can be surrounded. Being surrounded is bad. Always has been, always will be. That's when it comes down to a sheer endurance trial and almost luck. Because anything can wreck that line. You're open to spells, you're open to arrows, throwies, people just going crazy with polearms like monks coming in there, bashing your shield. Yes, we have shield breaking, we have armor crushing, and let's face it, no matter how good our shield is, if it's not made out of a harder material, it's going to come back at you if you don't know how to brace it properly. Proper combat tactics is not what we're here for. You want something like that. I see Skulldass in here. He's a really good fighter. He can give you some more tips on how to do that. I'm a meat shield. My strength and stick is not great, but I know how to place myself to absorb hits and how to protect people behind me. So at this point, I've been talking for probably about half an hour now. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask before we move on? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. Keep in mind, there's going to be a couple weird noises coming from my end. My son is awake, and he likes to scream randomly. I'm sure we can all, relate to that. So we're going to circle back to the plan in and of itself. How do you create one? How do you execute it with some sort of efficiency? Most importantly, when do you know to change it? So basic plan revolves around what is the objective. So we'll take like capture the flag. Pretty simple objective. There's a flag over there, you need to get it over to your end. Also pretty easy defense. Stop yours from being captured while capturing theirs. This way goes a couple different, usually turns into a murder party. Those left standing gather the flag and win. Can you do it any other way? Could you use stealth to do it? Sure. Can you use teleport? Absolutely. Probably one of the best use of teleport is to send in a teleport train and make their casters focus on that. Or if they have a scout, make them run out and try and charge their ability really fast. Yes, my son is a tiny barbar. He screams a lot.
Fight after death!
That too. Okay, so you want to, like I said before, you want to develop your strategy around your teammates to make them more effective. So we all have teammates at our park that we love to fight beside and with because, one, they complement us really well. We know their style, they know ours, and we work together. There's others we don't like working with because they either don't agree with plans, they go off and do their own thing, or they just don't work well with you, and that'll happen. In any sort of team, whether it be Amp Guard or Life, there are people you will not work well with for any number of reasons. If you don't like them, that's okay. You don't have to like someone to work with them. I've worked with people I do not like in Amp Guard in real life and can do so because I want to get the job done. I want to finish the assignment. I want to win the battle game. If you can't work with someone, let the person making the plan know. You don't want to pair 2 people or 3 people off with others they don't get along with and don't work with. That is a recipe for disaster. So pair people who work well together. The obvious pairings, of course, you take an armored person and an unarmored person. Usually a support, sometimes a glass cannon like a wizard. One will run interference, the other one will rain down death and destruction. Or one will run death and destruction, the other one makes sure they stay up and active. If you're paired with someone, stick with them. As soon as you abandon your partner, we've all seen Top Gun, what happens when Maverick abandoned his wingman? They died in the exercise. Do not abandon your partner. Communication, like in any other relationship, romantic, professional, combat, You got to tell them what's going on. Because if you're the frontline fighter, or supposed to be, you can't see everything. You're worried. You're focused on the person or persons in front of you. If you let your attention wander, you're gonna die. So if you're paired with someone, let them know what's going on. Give them a hand. If you're the one in the front line and you see something the person behind you doesn't, let them know. When you hear a silent battlefield other than spells or abilities, things are going bad fast. No one's communicating. One team will win surely out of brute force. That can take a while, and no one has fun. So at the end of the day, we're here to have fun. And if you can't find any joy in victory or defeat, it's not going to come out again. So, that's pretty much it. So if I was doing a battle game right now, and I've fought beside most people in this room, so Adra and I are working together. She's going to run Archer because, she does archery things. I'm going to run Barbarian because I like Barbarian things, funny enough. I know how Amy works. She needs a lot of breath to work. We learned in the tournament, up close archery is not her thing. She needs distance and targets. I can provide that. I'm not great at stick, but I don't have to be. I got to keep them distracted while Amy shoots them down. That's our strategy. I may die. I'll take people with me. But before I drop, Amy's going to get 2 or 3 people while I'm doing that. That's what makes us effective. Skulldath. Great at stick. He was a terror at Bhakti the year I was there. So if I'm going to pair him up with someone, I'm going to give him someone like, I'll go with my own park, Vince Frost. Probably one of our better healers. He's going to keep Skulldath running up and running every single time. He will not finish a death count. I'm going to pair those two up. Vince, strong and stick, can keep his own. Skulldath, terror. You pair those two up, there's your battering ram. They're going to wade into people, and they're going to come out alive 9 times out of 10. If I want to wreck a line, I'm going to hook up with Fubart. We're going to dive in there. We're going to ruin that line that everyone else let in behind us. That would be our goal. We're going to die, but we're going to sell ourselves dearly. So knowing your teammates and parkmates and what they can do will make your plan automatically better. If you were working with strangers, it would be based on, okay, so, 2-minute conversation before the fight begins. What can you do? And if you find the plan is failing, usually when it's easy to see, losing a point doesn't mean your plan is failing. It means the other team got the best of you that round. If you call Leon and 30 seconds later the other team scores that point, your plan isn't working. Change it up. Don't wait too long to do that. Because with games like Capture the Flag, Ring the Bell, Resource Gathering, there's more than one round. Usually it's 3, sometimes it's 5, and some people go to 7. The longer the battle game, the more rounds, the more often you have to change that tide. But remember, it also means you're going to get tired. So, revolve a strategy that'll let your players stay relatively fresh and also complete the objective. So if you got to do the slow, ominous advance, do that. But keep an eye out for those quick runners. Yes, buddy. All right. Thanks, buddy. You made me lose my place. Hope you're happy.
What happened?
So, getting back to that, sorry, my son's made me lose my place, and he does that often because he's fun like that. Yes, Tiny Barbara did do that. He just wants to be loved. So remember, if you're not comfortable making the plan, offer suggestions. Always do that. Like I said before, communication cannot be overstated in this case. So with all of that in mind, I have a little exercise for people in the room. You can choose not to do it, but it's a little fun exercise. So what I want you to do is, from your home park, create a team of 5 people. You plus 4. Just write it down. No. Yes, including yourself. So it's you plus 4 people, and not you don't post them just yet. There's a second half to this. No worries there, Fubard. So you're composing a team of players based on your park. You need 5 people, you plus 4 people. Can be anyone from your park. Just in case audio is not working, I've put the assignment there in the room. My bad, I forgot to put the name of the game. So yes, it's just a simple game of Ring the Bell. A quick game, often used in small groups because it requires basically no extra equipment. You can use trees or rocks. Also, feel free to ask questions here in the chat as well if you don't want to type them out. That's okay. Yeah, no worries. So what we're doing now is just a little exercise of creating a 5-person team from your park for a game of Ring the Bell against some unknown opponents, which I'll post shortly when everyone's done. This is just a strategy exercise based sheerly on class and the people you know. Correct. This is just a way to take everything that I've been talking about and turn it into a practical exercise. If we were at Adventure Academy, I would have had you form teams and just develop strategies how to defeat one another. But since we can't meet in person, this is the alternative. Thank you. Okay, so Rajavi is done. Has anyone else completed compiling their team yet? Perfect. So Fubard's done. Again, if you don't want to do this exercise, just put not doing so I can continue. I know we're still waiting on Admiral. Skulldeath is not brooded. All right, cool. You are here. Okay. Okay, fair enough. All right, so now that you all have your teams in mind, hopefully their classes as well, you are facing an unknown team that have come up to Canada to fight. This is all you know about them. So, with this team you're facing, develop a strategy to win Ring the Bell. Can be. Come play in LG sometimes, Fubard. You'll see we play a very different version of Ring the Bell than Marshall. You know, when we can meet in person. Yeah, we almost never play at Marshall unless we have, for some reason, only Marshall classes on field, which is rare, but it's happened. Yes, class battle game is the best. So once you've written down your strategy, go ahead and post it here with your team and what you do. So what martial means, Asaber, is that no magic, no abilities. You're just using equipment. So anyone can have a sword, shield, pole arm, and even a bow. It's really more of like an SCA style game, pure combat, no magic. Exactly, ditch rules. Yeah, with some changes because there's no armor in ditching. This would allow armor. No worries, especially with Bell Hollow in the recent years when they've had, you've had low turnout or not being able to play. It's hard to really remember what your part was like. See, Rajavia, that's your no strategy is pretty much what would happen anyway. Supporting the front lines, like I know Sindri runs frontline wizard like I do, and Lee is a heck of a warrior. So it's actually a pretty good plan. You support the front lines, you make sure there's enough defense at the back. That's pretty solid. See, those are all solid, which I expected from basically everyone here. I've, Brugin was an LG for a while. It's pretty solid strategist, and yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, not knowing your opponents or what they can do, just based on class alone, I can't argue with this. It's pretty good. Yeah. So now here's a second part to this. I want you to take the same mystery team and counter your own. So flip it. How would you, just based on classes and spell list given, how would you use these people to defeat your own line? Or at least come up with a way to neutralize them. So are you familiar with Druid at all, Rajavia, beyond the basic of they give enchants? Fair enough. Okay, so what Avatar Nature is basically that for level 4 enchants and lower, they can cast on themselves. So you become your own literally Avatar Nature. You cover yourself in all the enchants, plus you can buy equipment like sword and board as traditional. Ranger druids get bows. You can get it with Avatar of Nature. It just costs a little pricier. No, sorry, you have to have Ranger to get bows. So you have to dual class that. Yes, exactly. And can use ice balls, which is gross. So gross. And if you're not sure, Rajavi, that's perfectly fine. Yep, that's good. Perfect. All right. So what this half of the exercise was meant to do was to think about your own team and their weaknesses and how to counter them. Knowing where your team is weakest will help you strengthen them overall by being able to counter that from the opposing team. So first thing I usually ask, well, second thing I usually ask when on a team of people I don't play with a lot or have never played with is, besides what are you good at, what are you bad at? Because if we can cover that gap, we have a very strong team to go with. And that's another strategy you can employ with Amp Guard Battle Gaming is knowing where your team is lacking. Because if you can find that out, guaranteed someone else in the field is going to know that too. Or it's going to become evident. You can also use it as a trap too. All depends on how your strategy wants to go. Yes, Fubard is absolutely terrible. He's like, okay, well, hey, sir, I'm bad at running too. I can do it, but I'm a bigger dude on the heavy side. My cardio is practically nothing except for short little bursts. So I'll get to where I have to be, and I'm probably just going to stay there. Because if I wind myself in a long battle game, I do my team a disservice and I do myself a disservice. Conserving your strength is more important than being the quickest one in the field. Yes, I am like a dwarf. So that's pretty much all I have today. I'm a little 15 minutes shy of my time, so if you have any questions about strategy or class pairs or whatnot, I'm going to be here. If not, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I know Adventure Academy is going to end soon-ish. I'm not exactly sure. I'm a terrible person. But yeah, I'm just going to hang out here. If you have any questions, cool. If not, that's good too. And you can, use voice or chat to type them out. All right, cool. What do you got, Skullath? Class pairing? I would say no, but in my defense, I've only been playing for just under 6 years. What I mean by class pairing is when you're forming a team, whether it be 2 people, 5, 10, whatever, making little squads in that team to do a thing. So I would usually pair basically like a shield or a front man and a support or back murder class. So I've said before, as I started off playing Barbarian, I was often paired with like an archer or a scout or an assassin for bows. Yeah, no, not hybrid. God, that'd be fun. Oh man, hybrid classes would be great. Damn. Yeah, I could that. Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood that. And I probably spoke wrong, Skull. That's why I apologize on that. But man, wouldn't that be fun? Be able to pick like, you have level 6 and you pick one ability after from one from each class and just go crazy. I think Bard used to have an ability you can just take an ability or a spell from a different class and use it. That was V7 if I'm not mistaken, but I didn't play V7, so I'm really not sure. Admiral, you can answer that question better than I can, or Fubart. That's true. Right. True Bard's deaf. Yes, I swear some monster classes are just hybrid of 2 or more classes. Exactly. Elf is a great example of that. So is Orc, which is a warrior barbarian. Oh, okay, so I wasn't entirely mistaken. Cool. No more mimics. Mimis. No, no, they're Mimis from now on. But yeah, and I mean, there's really nothing stopping you from doing a hybrid class. The game designer in AmpGuard has all the freedom in the world to do literally whatever they want, and it's legal within the bounds of safety. So if you want to have a weird sort of class game where the person can be level six, if they're level six in one or a couple classes, they can pick an ability or a spell from that level and make one weird class. Yeah, for the most part, they are sort of, but in a way, not really. Auntie pal. All right, Admiral, you're now the auntie pal. That's it. New name change. I like it. Auntie Paladin Admiral. It's like she's gonna show up, kick your ass, but also give you like pie and $5 for your birthday. Sweet pie. But yeah, so yeah, if you ever want to do something weird with it, like if Amcard's getting a little boring for you at the classes, design a game, let people know ahead of time that they can just hybrid some classes and see what you get. See how that changes the game overall. And you may notice that you might bring a little bit more fun into it just by having the unexpected happen. So here's actually a mashup of classes, a class I made for when The Witcher first came out, and I was in love with it. It's overpowered, sure, but if you want to run that sort of game, this is something you can do. It mimics the Witcher's abilities to use symbols and sigils. You can realistically do whatever you want, Scaldath. Now, the door is nothing more than a suggestion. There's a lot of different monster books out there. I know the Door X group produces probably 2 or 3 a year. So if you want, like, really just requires the approval of your monarch and the champion, and maybe the GMR to run. But again, if you're running the game, you could do this, and just, hey, there's an optional class you can play. It's like Scout, only it's The Witcher. Be thematic about it and just have fun with it. That's cool. And yes, that is requirements for the witch. You can only grunt and say fuck. Um, but at this point, I'm going to go ahead and end the class. We got 5 minutes left, but it's 5 minutes, so I'm not worried about it. I hope you all had fun, at least learned something. It didn't find me too terribly boring and droning on. I'm going to post the write-up I did for this class on probably the Adventure Academy page and maybe the Kingdom page. So if you have any questions about what I did, it'll be right there. And as always, I am usually around to answer any questions, or just talk strategy, because I love strategy. That's my thing. You're welcome all. Thank you for showing up. It really, it was really nice to see everyone, at least some people, enjoying it. So that's great. Yes, duck, if there's 2 kids around. But hope you have a great night. I'm going to go play with the goober that is my son and hopefully have some dinner. So you'll have a great night.